Alright, let's go ahead and start off by looking at the weapon, and we're going to take a look at the basic properties of the projectile. So if you've been following along up to this point, we've been going through a lot of the properties. This time we're going to go a little more closer to the actual properties of the projectile. Let's take this back to where it was here. So as if for instance, let me pick 0. Default, we should have basic settings would be like 5, upward force would be 0. The override settings, this one is basically to say that if you decided you put a brush on an object in the scene and you wanted it to be a bullet, if you override it, then it'll actually force that whatever the projectile shape is going to be, it'll force it into these settings along with the physics and the collider settings as well. For us on this one though, again, let me just take this up a little bit bigger. So we'll do like a scale on the Y for the up and down on 10. The offset is in front or behind. So if I go in front, it's in front of the weapon. If I go behind, it's behind the weapon. Alright, and then the upward force, this is actually just what you apply, so in terms of like directional, but in terms of force, let me do a little example here, is that we could say an upward force is 6 right here, but then on physics, we'll actually go to our drag option, and then start to drag, apply a drag to it. So now all of a sudden, you have a force pushing up, and then you have the drag pushing down, and then you can actually set the torque to it. So now you actually have a little bit of a spin going on. So you can kind of get the picture of how this is actually working here. So you can use both these together, and then if you need to, as an example, you can go back again to here. Maybe you want the force to go up a little bit higher, so you can get the arc a little bit further as it tosses it out. So this, more of an example of if you were going to do like a grenade toss, or you're going to do a rock or something, then you can set things up to be like that. If you want it to be a little closer visually so that you're seeing what's happening inside the scene without having to zoom all the way out, it might be a little bit lower of a force on that one. Alright, so we've got our basic settings for those. Lock, same thing. If you want to lock it in a certain direction, that way it's going to launch out at a certain spot no matter what. And then along with it, we'll go ahead and continue with the same thing here, is that the you have the different type of forces for the bullet when it gets shot out. It's currently set to velocity. If you do impulse, it's going to be based on the speed, but also the mass being applied to it. And then you have force, so the force is also going to be applied to the speed and to the mass, but then you can also increase it this way. And then accelerate, in the impulse as well, is going to go out, and I believe it'll be slowing down as it goes outward. Accelerate will do the same thing. There'll be an initial push, and then it'll start to slow down. Alright, once you have these though, and again, if you're going to set something to go where you just want it to go straight, you can take the drag back to 0. 0 is going to make it so that no matter what it does, it's going to be a straight line, unless it's like, well, we have our upward force pushing it in an angle direction. Alright, so we can have it set this way, and then also just to make a note of the mass when it hits an object. The mass is going to be, if it hits an object with another physics applied to it, it's going to use the mass and apply that as the weight that it pushes against the object. So if you're trying to get an object to get pushed by a bullet when you shoot it, then be sure that this is actually up a little bit higher for it. Alright, so an example just to see this working right here. Let's put a couple more pieces here on the floor. There we go. Now, what's not in yet is going to be the bounce. We'll take a look at it here in a second, but it'll be one so that you can actually toss something and have it bounce a few times, not just a single hit, but it'll be a few time bounce or a timer bounce to it, so that you can see it that way. But for now, though, you can launch them where they drop out like that. Alright, and that's just changing up the values there for it.